All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. We got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, happy Friday. First, let's talk about a new study that shows that whites experience racism more than blacks. This is a study that shows that Republicans think that's the case. And I'm going to share with you the ludicrousy, the idiocracy, all of this stuff around racism and white Republicans. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, how a black woman tried to burn down the birthplace of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Atlanta, Georgia, and how it was all caught on video before she was stopped. What does that say about the state of mental health in this country? And more importantly, should we start to protect our Black history monuments? We'll have that conversation. Later on, we check in with my sister Corinna Denise as we talk about college boards planning to revise their AP Black history curriculum. And how important is it for Santa to be Black? I know, it's one of those questions, but apparently a lot of folks are saying that Santa should be Black because representation matters. Question is that true as it relates to Santa? Stay with us. We'll have those conversations and, of course, your take on those as well right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. I appreciate you for checking in and joining me this afternoon. And guess what, folks? It is officially Friday. Happy Friday. Can we get some horns for Friday? Can we get some horns, at least? Can we get some horns? There we go. Got a few horns. Happy Friday, folks. Folks are checking in. The Culture crew is gathering within the chat as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page. And you can join us right now and be a part of the illustrious Culture crew for the day. Big shout out to my online Culture crew, Pastor Damon Blissett. There we go. Big shout out to you, Pastor Damon. Cindy D, I see you. Can have hello, Cindy. Big brother Willie Frazier is in the chat. Good afternoon, brother Willie. Also, we got Robin Welch. I see. Happy Friday, Culture crew. Happy Friday, Robin. Good to connect with you once again. My sister Pauline Hurt, thank you so much for checking in. Ming Lee, Natasha Surge, how are you? And ABX Girl, the ABX Girl. Let me make sure I say that correctly. The ABX Girl. Hi, ABX Girl. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, folks, you can do the same. Make sure you jump in the chat as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page. We're also streaming live on Facebook under Roland Martin as well, so you can join us. And, you can join us through the chat on Facebook, and then we'll still get the information. Whatever comments you post on Facebook, we'll acknowledge you. We'll acknowledge you. But make sure you do so to be a part of the conversation. Now, we are streaming live on our home platform of blackstarnetwork.com. Go to our website today, download the app for free, and follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And of course, we ask that you just put a little something in the pot as we are continuing to power our way through this digital space, creating a larger movement around Black content in the digital space. So go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. And most importantly, we thank you for your donation. Also, folks, we are streaming live on Amazon News on your Fire TV. We're on Amazon Prime Video, where you can find us there on the Prime Video app. You can just go check us out there. Right there under the app of Live TV The News. So you can find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, Live TV The News. We're also on Freevee. That's right, folks. The Freevee network. You can find us on now at News. And we're on Plex TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network there. And you can definitely check us out on Plex TV. All right, folks, let's jump into this first story. This is a very interesting story. Y'all know how I feel about certain type of polls and stuff. Now, look, I'm not giving legitimacy to a lot of polls and all of that stuff, but it's just interesting to get a sense of how people think. And this is one of those situations. And this was something that was reported by many different other news outlets. The New York, I know the Washington Post did a piece about this. The Griot did a piece about this. Everything else, they did a piece about this. So it's pretty interesting to say the least that this stuff is happening. But there was a poll that recently showed that there are some white people who believe they experience racism more so than blacks. And a lot of those white people are Republicans. And they use it. And they use it. All right, let me just break it down to you folks. Let's take a look at this quote from, this is coming from theroot.com. Take a look at this, folks. This is according to a YouGov poll that was commissioned by Yahoo News back in July. Nearly 3/4 of Americans stated that racism was a small problem for black people, while less than half made similar remarks about white Americans. But along party lines, the answer shifted. A third of Republicans polled said that racism was not only a problem, but a huge one for white folks. In addition, 7 in 10 said it was a small problem for white people, which means Republicans think whites suffer more from discrimination than any other group. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this because this speaks a lot to the dynamics and the narratives and all of those things about where we stand in this country. If white Republicans think that they're experiencing discrimination and racism more than black people, it may get to the core of the problem as to why we're seeing their policies reflecting something else and not in the interest of black folks and other people in this country. So look, I'm going to take a quick pause when we come forward. Let's continue to have the conversation. I would love to get your take on it. And stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we have been talking about a new poll that has come out from YouGov that says that white people feel like they are experiencing discrimination and racism more than black people. Take a look at the graph here, folks. Robin Welch, you say, I call BS. So do I, Robin. What? Do whites experience racism more than blacks? Really? In 2023, considering policies, considering police brutality cases, considering all of the other stuff that we've been seeing, educational inequities, and considering, just constant, just day in and day out, we can find examples of racism each and every day against black people. But you have some white folks, and that's again, this is some, but those in the Republican Party will try to spin the facts to fit their narrative, to fit their agenda, so that way they can create the policies that they want, folks. And this is why it's important for us to understand the landscape. This is why it's important for us to at least call BS, like you have done, Tiana. Robin, that you call BS on this. Now, Tiana, you said, I'm done with polls. I feel you. I understand. I definitely understand that, Tiana. I'm done with polls, but this is getting interesting because some people will use a poll as science and or as a reference to where we are in this country, even though we often say, oh, no one has asked me to do this poll. No one has asked about my opinion. Right. I get that. But these are the things that media companies, these are the things that political leaders, this is the stuff that people hold on to. Because when you hear a political leader speaking, when he or she says, and 50% of Americans believe such and such and so and so, then you how many of us say, hey, excuse me, Mr. Political Leader, Madam Political Leader, which poll did you reference in that moment? So when this type of information comes up, all right, let's see. Let me go a little further in this whole situation as to why some white Republicans believe that they are being discriminated against, unlike any other groups of people in this country. It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. So I shared with you that that the polls 7 and 10 said it was a small problem for white people, which means Republicans think whites suffer more from discrimination than any other group. Now, last year, YouGov conducted similar research in conjunction with The Economist. At that time, a third of participants said white folks face some discrimination. Of course, Republicans were more likely to state white Americans deal with racism more than black folks. It's just coming from that. When they did that poll last year, when it asked Americans about their experiencing discrimination, they found that, quote, at least half of American Indian, Alaska Native, Black, and Hispanic adults, and about 4 in 10 Asian adults say they have experienced at least one type of discrimination in daily life at least a few times in the past year. In addition, the survey found that white people were less likely than any other member of racial group to say that they've experienced negative responses from other people. Only 6% believe race was the reason for the negative interaction compared to 4 in 10 black folks who believe the bad treatment was partly because of race. It's something because what we have seen, and even in former President Donald Trump's retelling of the narrative, as if white Americans are being victimized. And this is a ongoing trope that the Republicans have been putting out, that some election deniers have been putting out. A lot of people, a lot of folks, especially on the right, folks, have been putting out saying, oh, no. We're suffering in America. We're the ones to not get the opportunities. What are you talking about? Over 400 plus years, black people have been in a condition of either chattel slavery and even coming out of chattel slavery into Jim Crow, into systemic slavery and oppression. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? All right, folks, let me hear what y'all are talking about in the chat. Join us in the chat as we're streaming right now on Roland Martin's YouTube page. I would love to get what you have to say about this. To Tiana, going back to you, you say delusions of grandeur. Absolutely. Absolutely. Pastor Damon, you said these people are delusional and foolish with this thinking. I'm just saying. Absolutely. Absolutely. And see, some of us want to continue to try to appeal to the moral sensibility of an individual, right? But it's hard to appeal to the moral sensibility of someone who can't even see the truth, the obvious truth. So if I'm asking you, if I'm cajoling you, if I'm trying to convince you that this is the reality, and you have it in your head that, oh no, that's not the reality. My son couldn't get a job because he was going up against an immigrant, quote unquote, and so therefore he lost out on an opportunity. So these are some types of folks that see diversity as being the problem. These are folks who talk about, oh, we need to get back to the good old days. All right, let's continue to get your take on this. Willie Frazier, big brother, you said, first of all, they should have asked them to define racism. Great point. I like that. Then you also said, Willie, you said then it would be clear they may experience prejudice, half don't know what racism is. And I'm often very, I think about this for some time, actually, Brother Willie, and I think you made an excellent point. Thank you. But I think about, do white people talk about racism and the impact, the effects of racism, the same way that black people talk about racism? Can we talk about that? Do white people talk about racism in that way? And I'll never forget the book, White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. And she made this point in the book, White Fragility, saying that those type of conversations often don't come up until a younger person within those families start to question things about the family members, about the philosophy and the thinking, just about the whole politics of the family. Until a younger person comes into the conversation and talks about race, those things are kind of left unquestioned, untalked, they're not talked about. So it's very interesting. And it's very interesting. And I'm only bringing this up. We got to take another pause, but I'm only bringing this up, folks, because we are going into another year. And more importantly, we're going into another election season. And there are so many things that are on the table that we do not need to be, as you say, Brother Damon, in the twilight zone about. I was watching a video earlier today. I think it was D.L. Hughley. He posted some video of a black teacher who had an inappropriate sexual relationship with a 13-year-old student. And how during the course of that time that this black woman, she was fairly young, she was really young, had this relationship, she had also gave the 13-year-old boy a gun. I don't know what for, but that's what happened. And now they're looking at giving this black woman, this black teacher, 40 years in prison. And so I was looking at the comments of this video, and folks were like, upset. But people kept saying stuff like, they didn't do that to the other teachers, the white teachers, who slept with children, who had inappropriate relationships with their students. They didn't give them that much time. And my point wasn't this and saying, and then we're going to go to our pause. We cannot continue to act as if we don't live in a double standard in this country. Our blackness, as much as it is a badge of honor, as much as the badge of pride, in the eyes of some people, of some white people, it is a disgrace. It is an abomination, right? It is a punishment. And we can't act as if that the double standard for black people don't exist. And some people say, why did never people? And I'm saying this is part of the reason why we can't get as far. This is my personal opinion, folks. We can't get as far as we want to get because we're still working out of we should, we could, why don't they? Instead of taking it as reality, accepting the fact that there is a double standard in this country. And so this is, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because this simple point that guess what? Instead of questioning, well, why do they hate us, or why don't they want to try to work with us, and why do they just accept the fact that some people look at us differently, and that's the point that we're going to have to work from. Not looking at, let me try to convince you that I'm not a threat, or let me try to convince you I'm a nice black person. Just accept, you know what? Fine. You want to think that you're the one? Fine. You feel like you're discriminated against? Cool. Because I'm going to accept this reality and work from that vantage point versus wishing upon a star that something changes and it's something is different. We can't, especially when it comes to race matters. People will show you who they are, right? This is the time and place where we're going to see the manifestation of defects. And so if a person is showing you that part of themselves, that they're showing you, and that the systems are showing you the double standard, the injustices, then we need to accept that and just kind of move forward. Am I wrong? I'm thinking this. Yeah. And this is not about throwing shade on any race or any group of people. This is essentially about getting down to the truth and to the facts of the matter. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about being in a space of reality. As much as they might be in the twilight zone about where and how their struggle, we can't be in the twilight zone about our struggle and our relationship to our former slave masters. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When I come forward, let's continue the conversation on the other side, folks. I want to get your take on another thing that has gotten the internet talking, especially black social media, as a black woman has tried to burn down the birthplace of one of our great beloved leaders, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Atlanta, and was caught on video. What are we doing wrong? What is going on, folks? We're going to have that conversation up next. Stay with me. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. This story that y'all probably have been seeing on the internet, on social media, it's very disturbing. Very, very disturbing. At first, I thought, one thing about the story, now more details are emerging. There was a woman who was arrested for pouring gasoline trying to burn down Dr. Martin Luther King's birth home down in Atlanta. I had the great honor and privilege to visit his birth home. At the time, we couldn't even walk in. It was just so many people. His home, his birth church that he grew up in wasn't too far from where he lived. And if you go to Atlanta, especially if you're in Atlanta, if y'all know that if you walk down, and I don't know the exact name of the street, so crew, talk to me if y'all know the street name of where his birth home is. But it's like a row of homes, like a block of homes that is connected to him, and I think it's some family members, and it's just kind of kept it intact. And Lisa, I want you to, if we could pull up the video of this woman. This video was taken by someone who was just like a bystander who was just watching this whole thing go down. And take a look at this video. You could take me out the frame, please, Lisa. Take a look at it. I'm not sure if this is a woman who is in need of mental help or not. Mental health help. I'm not sure if that's the case with her. But let me share with you a little bit of details because yesterday she was just arrested. Dr. King, Auburn Avenue, thank you. Auburn Avenue. The police were called to Auburn Avenue near the King Center just after 5:45 p.m. When they arrived, they found two off-duty NYPD officers who had been visiting the King Center, had a suspect detained until they arrived. Police said they have arrested 26-year-old Lanisha Chantrice Henderson. There she is. Let's just keep this up here, folks. Charged her with criminal attempt arson and criminal attempt interference with government property. The police say two tourists from Utah who were in the area saw Henderson pouring gasoline on the home and they interrupted her. According to the Atlanta Police Chief Darren Schombaum, he said that action saved an important part of American history tonight. The video from a witness showed, as we're going to show this video again, of course, all black, pouring gasoline on the windows and in the bushes. And according to the Atlanta Fire Department Battalion Chief Jerry DeBerry, he said had the witnesses not intervened, the house could have been burned to the ground in moments. Wow. 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 All right. Let me get to you, crew. Get your take on this. And this is really unfortunate. This is beyond unfortunate. Real Brooklyn, you say nothing surprises me anymore. I live in a country where people can walk into school and murder kids with no remorse or hearing or seeing this is not surprising. Republican, you said, I'm glad she was caught. Me too. Anastasia Patchen, good afternoon, Anastasia, and good afternoon, Republican in Real Brooklyn. Y'all Anastasia, you said it's pretty busy in that area. Yeah, Auburn Avenue seemed to be pretty busy. But just the simple fact, folks, that she thought this. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. She's 26 years old. If I'm looking at the body language, and of course I'm not no body language expert, I don't know if she's talking to herself, if she suffers from some sort of mental health condition. How do we handle that? How do we make sure that even though she did this act, and thank God that it didn't go through all the way, because that would have been a great tragedy in and of itself. But does she need to be in jail? Or should something else be done to help this woman? Cindy, you said she's probably been burnt by society, so to speak. Probably. 26 years old, you know. When I first heard about this story, I thought this was like an older person. But to think of it as a 26-year-old, I'm like, I don't know. When you hear young people do certain things, man, it just makes you feel like, is this really about them wanting to be malicious, vicious, and everything, or is there something else underneath all of this? I'm trying to process this, crew. So just take a walk with me through this process. Like, here we have a black woman looking to burn down. I don't even know if she had matches or anything like that. And if the fire chief said that this place could have burned down in minutes, that just goes to show you, like, if you go to the birthplace of King's Home, like, it's intact. They kept pretty much everything intact. And Brother Damon, I'm sure you can attest to this. The whole structure of the house. I don't know if they like renovated the structure because they didn't want to like mess up anything, because it is government property. It is a national archive. So I don't know what type of protection on that structure they have put in place, whether it's internal or external protection. But there's just so much in this. And it begs us to have the question, should we start to put certain things like some sort of security measures for certain landmarks of our history? Should we start to do that? Robin Welch, my sister, you said, I think there's some serious brokenness going on with her. Yeah, I agree. I think that's the case. That's what I'm getting to as well, Robin, that there's some serious brokenness with this woman, this young woman. And I keep thinking young because it's like, I think she might not have been in the mindset to really understand, like, you're doing this to Dr. King's birthplace. It could have probably been any other house. It could have been any other house. But I do know that once you get to around that area of Auburn Avenue, like, there are signs and stuff, and maybe she just really wasn't in her right mind. Real Brooklyn, you said wondering what would have been said if she was white. I don't know. What do you mean? I mean, she was stopped. And as far as I can tell, there hasn't been a lot of like mischaracterization. First and foremost, if you're trying to burn down Dr. King's house and you're a black person, but this is a case, and I think this is a great case and a great opportunity for us to have a different conversation about mental health, for us having different conversations about the importance of history. Again, we don't know her state of mind, because you could talk history all day and all night to a person. But if that person is not in the right frame of mind to really understand the significance of what you're doing, of what you're saying, really understanding the significance of what they were doing, the concept, the actions, then it does. History has nothing to do. This is about what's going on in that sister's head. You are not a victim. Thank you for joining us once again. You said actions have consequences. We can only speculate on her mental state, but her actions were pretty clear. Yeah. How many of us Let me do this. Let me take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want us to think on this. How many of us would like for her to be prosecuted? Like, we know this is government property. We know that she got some serious charges against her. How many of us would like us to see her like fully prosecuted? Like jail time, the whole nine? Or do we get a prosecution with mental health services? Like, we don't know. But does she need to have the book thrown at her? Look, I gotta take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's hear that. Let me get your take on that. Stay with me. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about the woman who was arrested for pouring gasoline, trying to burn down the birth home of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Atlanta, Georgia. We're talking about 26-year-old, let me make sure I get my sister's name, 26-year-old Lanisha Chantrice Henderson. Here she is, folks. She's charged with criminal attempt arson and criminal attempt interference with government property because Dr. King's birthplace is a national institution, historic institution. And Lisa, let's show the video once again. This is video of Lanisha pouring gasoline on the home of Dr. King right there on Auburn Avenue. And she just, I mean, it's just crazy, this level of vandalism. So I'm posing some questions, and the crew, y'all are giving me some answers as we ask these questions about what should be done in a case like this. Is this a mental health case? Should she get the book thrown at her because of the severity of what she was about to do? What do we do? Pastor Damon, you said both prosecuted and mental evaluation. I think a lot of people would agree with your assessment on that, big brother Damon. Um, Davey, you said Davey Floater, and Davey, thank you for joining us once again. You said attempted arson against a historical site. She need education more than incarceration because prison time won't teach her anything, won't teach her nothing. Yeah, I'm putting not to say she shouldn't suffer the consequences of that because this is a historical space, right? People come to visit it. Now you got to actually like clean up. Of course, you want to get a professional cleaner to clean up the gasoline and to make sure that it's spotless because any flame can just create a situation. So you really got to do some very particular cleaning in a situation like this. But many of I'm focusing more on, and I'm just processing this. I'm focusing more on like this sister may need some real mental help. She may not. She did drugs. It could be a lot of things. There was a break from reality, right? I mean, she's only 26 years old. What does she have against Dr. King at 26 years old? Tiana, you said, nah, she intentionally did it. She needs time out in a cell. I don't think she shouldn't get a cell time, but do I want the book thrown at this 26-year-old? That's a hard one. I'm going to be honest with you, Tiana. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. It's trying to figure it out. Like you're teaching the next generation to have respect for the history, respect for our national institutions, historical monuments, and all of those things. But then at the same time, and I think this is why I think this is a great opportunity for us to kind of process all of this, because you want them to know these things. You want them to understand that your actions can carry some serious consequences. So you don't want to move away from that fact. But I don't know. Again, I would have to figure out, we would have to know if she's in her right frame of mind. You are not a victim. You said she is a potential danger to herself and others. She definitely needs to get off the streets. I agree. Definitely agree with that. Michelle B., you said, thank you for joining us, Michelle. You said the attempted arson makes me think she's more ignorant than this educated, strange crime to commit towards a black civil rights leader, especially as a young black woman. Let me tell you something. Y'all know it and I know it. Nobody's talked about more in black history, in modern day black history, like Dr. King. So, and I don't know if she's from Atlanta. Most likely, you know what I'm saying, she didn't travel across the country or travel from someplace to start doing this. So most likely she's probably from Atlanta. So you mean to tell me that you hate Dr. King that much that you want to burn his house down? This doesn't sit right with me, Michelle. You know what I mean? Republican, you say she's just a baby. Now, Ming Lee, Natasha, you said let's not defend this atrocity. It is. And let me tell y'all something. If this thing, and we can only speak to speculation at this moment, but if this thing could have gone forward, suppose she would have just lit that match. Y'all hear me? Suppose she would have lit the match. She probably would have hurt her or even killed herself in the process, along with taking this down. Now, here's the big question as we kind of wrap up this part of the conversation. How do you think Dr. King would respond to something like this if he was living? I'm trying to think, and I was thinking about this during the break, folks. I asked myself, what would Dr. King say in a moment like this? Something tells me, and I'm not, obviously, you know, I'm a student of King and his philosophy in a lot of ways, but I don't know if he would have been so quick to persecute her? I don't know. I don't think that would have been his energy, his spirit. I feel like he would have said that the brick and mortar doesn't take precedence over the heart and flesh. You know what I'm saying? He would have said in his own special and extraordinary way to talk about that the real house is the body, is the mind, is the spirit, is the soul of the human being, and not the brick and mortar. I hope y'all hear me. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to think like what would Dr. King say in a moment like this. Sean Ryan, my guy, thank you for checking in once again. You said it really comes down to what her intentions were and why she did it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Will we get that answer from her, Sean? Maybe, maybe not. Is she in the right frame of mind? And I'm saying the mental state to give us a clear and direct answer to that? Maybe, maybe not. But we will see. We will see. Tiana, you said Dr. King would say this is sad and unfortunate, and the young lady is crying out for help. I would agree. I would agree. I would agree. You can't tell me that Dr. King would not have some level of compassion for this woman, especially a young Black woman. He would have had so much compassion for her. Would he have been sad that this was done? I think so, absolutely. But then he would have asked the question, well, how is she doing? Just trying to sit in the shoes of the good doctor. How is she doing? We will have to see. I think this is a teachable moment. We can't go into all of the details until more information is shared. But when we talk about mental health cases, when we talk about the importance of preserving history, when we talk about how the current state of things, if we find that she was a person that was just like completely frustrated because of the current state of things, I think that this speaks volumes. So, we will have to see, but it's quite disturbing that we're in this place right now in this country where a situation like this can occur. And we just have to see, folks. I don't think there is any clear answer at this point. We will just have to see. All right, folks, I got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's switch gears. Let me check in with my sister, Corinna Denise, culture crew member, college advisor. Let's talk to her about the latest announcement coming from College Board about revising their AP Black History curriculum. Once again, we'll have that conversation on the other side. And in the second half of the show, stay with us. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, We're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Let me do this, and then I want to bring you up to speed on something that my team just informed me during the break. First and foremost, I'm joined by my sister, one of our great contributors here on the Black Star Network on The Culture, my sister, Corinna Denise, our great culture crew member, who is a college advisor, and she's doing some political work and activism as well. So welcome, first and foremost. Welcome, Corinna. Good afternoon. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
I'm sorry. I'm still in this spirit of trying to. I'm sorry. I'm still in the mental space of this situation with this young sister in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Trying to do this very quickly. So the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the big newspaper down in Atlanta, has reported that this young lady, let's show the picture of her once again. This is 26-year-old Lanisha Chantrice Henderson. This is the young lady that was found pouring gasoline on the house, the birthplace of Dr. King, a couple of days ago. She has been arrested, but now the Atlanta Journal-Constitution reported, Corinna, that she is a veteran, a United States Navy veteran who earned medals for good conduct, among other accolades, during her 4 years of service. She's a veteran.
Yeah. To be very transparent, I'm not in the least surprised that she's a veteran. I can only speak from my personal experience. Some folks, not all, who have gone into different branches of the military. I mean, there are certain things that happen and occur that influence folks to do certain things, right? And 26, she's a baby. Like, something has to be cultivated in you. Something has to be taught for you to take the initiative to do something. I know we were considering, or I heard you mention, her mental health. But aside from that, yeah, it's unfortunate. And just because you're a veteran or you've served the country doesn't necessarily mean that you wouldn't try to destroy it. I mean, we kind of saw that on J6, right? A lot of what people would probably call prominent people, because they served our country per se in different branches of the military, Army, Navy, Air Force, and they breached the Capitol. So I don't think we should necessarily equate because she's a veteran that, oh my goodness, or be so taken aback by that. People have their reasons. It's just so unfortunate that it's our people burning down our legacy, right? Our artifacts, our heirlooms. And why? Because our people perish for lack of knowledge. Is she familiar with our history, with our struggle, what these places mean, what Dr. King meant to us as a people, to this country? to the world, and I think there's just so much that gets lost there. And it's really sad and unfortunate that it's one of our own to destroy something that belonged to someone else who looks like us.
It is shocking. It is shocking. And I think the thing for me, Corinna, and again, I'm still processing all of this. Um, I think the thing for me is that we often see veterans, and I'm coming across more and more stories of veterans who went to serve wherever they served, and they're coming back home damaged.
Yeah.
They're coming back home damaged, right? And I think that's the thing. Like, you made this point. You just made the point. Like, people believe that since you fought to preserve the country, that you wouldn't come back to try to quote unquote destroy the country. But it depends upon your experience in that military.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? What you experienced when you were in some foreign country, like wherever you were, that it changes you, and that's what that's what I'm trying to boil down
Definitely
to.
changes.
It changes you on a fundamental level. Now, some of our people come back and they are able to reinsert themselves back into civilian life and thrive. But then you have another veteran, you have others who come back into this space, and because of PTSD and other mental health issues, because
And
of
add to
physical,
that how poorly they're treated when they do return. Like,
right,
have you ever been down to the VA, like the hospitals and
Oh
stuff?
yeah,
They are
yeah.
atrocious, deplorable, the way that veterans are treated in this country. I personally think if you go and fight in battle and war, you should come back and just live your best life. You shouldn't have to be looking for work. But oftentimes, you'll see they're the ones, on the corner with the cardboard sign like "homeless, please help," and it's disgusting, it's deplorable. So I think there's a mix of reasons. But yeah, with our sis, I don't know. I don't. It kind of, I struggle with the fact that it seems like of late the first go to is, oh, the mental health, the mental health, the mental health, and I'm not trying to diminish that, and I'm not just speaking to this young lady, but there are some people, unfortunately, Faraji, who just have had hate cultivated in them, right? They no longer have a heart. They got an ice box. It's just instilled in them. When you come into the world, right, you're innocent. Children are innocent. Babies are innocent. Someone has to teach you these things. You have to be influenced
Yep.
by something to go ahead and take the initiative to say, well, I'm just going to go and burn this down. And something else, too, I'm like, my God, like she's 26 years old and a veteran, like just her age and veteran in the same sentence. That alone, too, is kind of like, got
But
me.
she could have turned and while in service. She could have turned. You know what I'm saying? Like it don't take much for some people, man. Like I'm seeing this for real, and we're seeing so many cases of people who are just struggling right now, who are just struggling to get through the day to day life, right? And if we were to ask any crew member that's in the chat today, how many of you struggle to sometimes get out of bed 2 or 3 times a week? Had that experience? You'd be surprised. We'd probably be surprised how many people said yes. I struggle with that. Like I struggle
Yeah.
with it. Depression, anxiety, PTSD. This used to be such a non-factor years ago. Now it's so common because there's so much
I
that's put
don't know
on
if
the.
it was a non-factor for Raji. I think that right now there's just a
Okay.
magnifying glass over it.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that.
We had a
I
heightened
agree with
sense of
that. So yeah,
awareness.
yeah. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. I think that what our like why it's like why a child's father is so hard because he didn't we did you didn't talk about what daddy went through when he went to war or what granddaddy went through. You didn't talk
Yeah.
about any type of abuse that grandmom or even mom experienced when she was a child or a young woman. You know what I'm saying? And so those are the secrets that our parents and our grandparents kept within the family. And I think you're absolutely correct. And I'm gonna change that, saying that there wasn't much emphasis and talk and awareness about that stuff back then. We know it was present,
Yeah.
but it was an awareness back then versus what we see now, where everything is out in the open. It's like we got to talk about toxicity, we got to talk about depression, we got to talk about mental health, and it's still a struggle within Black people.
For
It's a
plethora of
the
reasons.
conversation. The conversation is still a struggle. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Like, even though she's 26 years old, we don't know. We don't know. Maybe she was violated while sexually assaulted while she was in service. I don't know. And we're just speculating. I mean, something broke her to get to this place. And it's hard for us to assume, but it's easier for us to understand, I think, that in a lot of ways, the way things are right now, it's easy to get broken. It's easy.
Easy to get broken. Yeah, and on the flip side too, unfortunately, a lot of folks you have who are easily influenced to do wicked things, to do wrong things, to do bad things. So we just don't know. And I mean, we could sit here and speculate all day.
Right.
And it wouldn't change anything. It's just that, we're going to see more of this. I'm sure there are other things happening that don't necessarily get the media attention, as far as things or places being desecrated. And yeah, it's unfortunate. And it seems like we're just at a crux now. This has become the norm.
Absolutely.
That's just the point where we are.
Really quickly, in regards to this case, Lanisha was taken to Grady detention. I'm being told by my team. She was taken to Grady detention for a psychological evaluation and will be transferred to Fulton County Jail once she's discharged. So, she looks like she's going to get that evaluation, Brother Damon, and she looks like she's going to serve some time in prison. I would be very interested to know how this whole situation is, like why she decided to do it. We may not know those answers, but I would be very interested to know. And more importantly, I think this is a great time for us to have some more conversations about mental health and in the Black community. So,
and one more thing too, Farajii.
Yeah,
this might sound extreme, but you know what? I won't be surprised if the folks who are against us will leverage this to their advantage, right?
I mean, and see, and look.
Say, look, because you know how they love to talk about Dr. King.
Correct.
And now that it has to do with his birthplace, right? I wouldn't be surprised.
And it was done by a Black woman.
And then a Black woman on top of that. So I could only imagine the story or how creative they're going to be to change.
I can only imagine.
Or to mix
I agree. I agree. And let me just tell you what the intention behind it. If that's the stance that the other folks against our interests and our rise take, then that just goes to show you what you talked about, having that ice box for a heart. That's what we're seeing from them. You know what I'm saying? When you start to use the pain of another person for your political or social advancement. You know what I mean? To say, see, that's what happened. And you try to deflect from the things that you've done. And you try to make it seem like the oppressors themselves. We don't oppress ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't create the systems that we're born in. You know what I mean?
I want to say one more thing.
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to say one more thing considering what you opened the show up with today. I didn't get to be in that conversation, but I just want to add, since we're kind of bringing up all these things, you know what? We're racist. There's no way. Because guess what? We did not invent the shit. And that's all I want to say. I just had to get that out.
You just got to get it out. It's Friday.
We didn't even create these systems or these constructs.
No, that's what I'm saying. Okay. Listen, Coretta, you talking to me. You talking to the crew. We know we didn't invent this shit. Okay, we didn't invent this. We were born into it, like Tupac said. I was raised in this world. I didn't make it. That's what we're doing. But that's what I'm saying. Like people's view right now, and I gotta take a pause. But people's mindset right now is to try to distort and twist history, twist the
Yes.
fact in favor of their agenda. And I'm saying there's something satanic about that, especially when you're talking about
Oh, yes.
a person's pain and oppression. You know what I'm saying? You try to act like you didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? And it gets to this point where it's like you can't even state the obvious. And so you become a threat on a whole different level when you're trying to convince us that people weren't climbing the walls on J6 or any other madness that you try.
Well, they were on
This
a
is
tour.
this is dangerous stuff, man. This is dangerous stuff. And you're going to be, and anybody that's held liable, anybody that tries to take the obvious and blatant truth and try to twist it and make it into a falsehood. Boy, I ain't crying no crocodile tears when the punishment of justice comes down on your ass. I'm serious.
Okay.
I ain't no tears.
Not one
I
damn
didn't know. Now you're moving into a different realm of reality. All right, look, I gotta take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk about some stuff related to school and how the College Board is once again revising their AP Black History curriculum. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in. Joined by our culture crew member, contributor, college advocate, college advisor, and political advocate and activist, my sister Corinna Denise, joining us as well, as she does every Friday here, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And that previous conversation got me thinking, but I'm gonna reserve my thoughts because you always be bringing some fire on Fridays. So we're gonna start calling this Fire Fridays with Corinna Denise.
Fire Fridays. Okay. That has a nice ring to it.
We're gonna start doing that.
Well, we got
All right, let's talk college board. This is your wheelhouse, Corinna. I had to bring it to you. Let's talk college board. Let's talk about the fact that college board on Wednesday decided to revise their curriculum, update their framework for a new advanced placement African American studies course. Mm-hmm. Now, what does that actually mean? We know that months ago, they kind of bowed down to conservative critics. They were like, oh, you talking too black. You can't talk about enough history. Blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Well, now they have announced that their revision includes more materials and topics, including the Tulsa Race Massacre, Black culture's influence on film and sports, and discriminatory practices related to housing, known as redlining. Mm-hmm. The new framework will be used when the course officially launches next academic year. So they're going to add a little bit more meat to that. What does that say for you? You are a college advisor. What does that? How does that speak to you, Corinna?
Well, hold on. They said they're going to add a little bit more meat, but hold on. I have some notes.
Y'all know, y'all can tell Corinna was that type of student in school. Hold on. I got my notes.
So I gotta reference the notes. So,
you probably was advising. You were advising to teachers when you were in school, weren't you? Like, wait a minute, hold on, Miss Smith. I have it written down.
Yeah, like, wait, now what now? Okay, let's go to the source. Let's go to the text. So something that really stuck out to me in the article that you shared earlier this afternoon, talking about the course framework, so yeah, they added some things like legacy, by provocative poet and activist Amira Baraka, as he's described in the article, as an optional resource. So some of these things that they've added, Farajii, are optional, meaning that it'll be at the teacher's discretion whether or not they're going to implement it into the lessons. So, yeah, that's something that really stuck out to me as far as revising the framework. And I just want to read this quote too from the article. Several sources that were required course content in the framework released in February were listed as optional in the latest revision, including an interactive map of the 1990 Red Summer riots by white supremacists, a speech by Frederick Douglass, and writings between Malcolm X and Maya Angelou in Ghana. College Board in April had said it would revise the course after the Florida controversy, promising unflinching encounter with the facts. Yeah. So we know they watered down the course. So now they're adding in some of these things, but it's optional. So it seems like they're trying to come to a happy medium where like we're adding a little bit more meat on the bones, but you don't have to necessarily dip it into the barbecue sauce, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, okay then. And at the end of the day too, we have to realize that, let's say we didn't even go through all of this controversy, this past year, even here in Florida with this course in particular, we have to teach our children our history. We have to come to what's being implemented into the classroom to figure out, okay, what did you all discuss, and to see if that was true, because at the same time, there's so much history, right? And which leads me to another quote that stuck out in the article for me. There is a lot of content to cover. This is by Nelva Williamson, who is one of the authors of the framework of the AP African American History course. She's been teaching for years upon years. And she says there's a lot of content to cover, and that is because students have not been exposed to this. right? They have not been exposed to this. So it feels overwhelming at times, end quote, that there's a lot that they don't know. Okay. So
and here's my question: by being optional, it sounds like there's still not a mandate. It's still not like you have to do this. It's
right,
like
it's not a mandate. Like they're adding little things, but basically too, like when you have a lesson plan, right? And anyone who's taught would know this, like, you know, especially if you're following certain curriculum, they will have other things that maybe you could actually implement into your lesson where you can decide, right? So you have like the foundational aspect of that lesson. You want to definitely teach that. And then they'll say, okay, here are some other things that you may or may not choose to implement. So that's my takeaway with this revised curriculum for this course, that they added a few more things, but it will be entitled as optional. Teachers will make the choice, right? So it sounds to me like that kind of takes off some of the, for lack of a better word right now, responsibility from the board, where the teacher has the choice. And then if the teacher chooses, but what happens if you choose to teach these things, right? You know, is there going to be a consequence? Well, that's going to depend on where you're located. You know, because the course is still in pilot right now. It's actually going to be available next year, but then schools have to decide, are they actually going to teach the course, right? Because aside from all of this controversy, Farajii, you know, I said before on the show, like not every school even offers AP courses. So when students are applying to college, usually that college is going to ask for the high school's profile, right? The profile usually shows what students can actually take at that particular school, if they have honors, if they have AP, right? So that they can make a decision, okay, this is the student's best attempt at what was offered to them. Yeah, so I mean, they revised it, okay, you know, but I think my feelings will remain the very same as an educator. You know, either way, we have to circle back to see what's actually being in that taught in that classroom and what's in the curriculum, right? And then in addition to that, are the teachers actually teaching to the curriculum? You know, I bet that there are going to be some teachers who will add their own sauce, right? Add a little bit more to that lesson, in addition to what's being provided to them. So yeah, it's optional.
So it's sad. Look, I got to take a quick pause, but it sounds like this is still a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Like on the outside, you might be like, "Oh man, they came to the light. Oh man, they're gonna do all this stuff." It's a come to Jesus moment for College Board, and then you read the devil is in the details.
Mm-hmm. So if you need, you know, a source, find some of your teacher friends. Then they're gonna tell you like, yeah, they added a little something there, but it's still optional. So it has yet to be seen how this will play out. It'll be interesting next year to get a count to see what schools will actually take the initiative to invite AP African American Studies into their classrooms. So.
Well, let me do this. Let's take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's have more conversation about this and get some remarks from our online culture crew, the illustrious crew. Also, we getting some word about some breaking news in regards to the U.S., how they have officially vetoed a UN ceasefire resolution in the Israel-Hamas war. Boy, oh boy, this is going to be crazy. So we'll take a quick pause. We'll come back to you folks. And of course, we want you to stay tuned. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network, joined by my sister, culture crew member, contributor, Corinna Denise, as we talk about how College Board has said that they were going to revise the AP Black History courses by adding some more details and around the Black Tulsa Massacre, by adding some more details around the topics of Black influences on film and sports. But Corinna here said, look, the fine print, we got to read the fine print where all of this stuff is added, but it's still left optional for teachers to actually teach it. Corinna, what do we do with this? I mean, what are we doing? What is this about? Like, do we have, like, why is this so hard to teach our history to students? Black, white, Asian, Latino. Why is that such a problem?
Because knowledge is power. Because knowledge is power. And imagine, we wouldn't be going through half the shit we're going through right now if all of us had that knowledge already. Because we're in a state right now where there's so much to learn and so much to unlearn. We've been so bogged down with all of the lies and disinformation and ignorance, right? Just not knowing. And imagine if we knew all of our history, right? This is why there's such a fight and a pushback against it, because knowledge is power, right? We want to have conversations on here about why voting is so important. Or, you know, what's happening to democracy. It just, and I don't see how we would even be having those conversations if we knew our history and we understood it. But to the teacher's point in the article, it can seem overwhelming at times because there's just so much that they don't even know. So much that I'm sure a lot of us have learned in our adult lives. You know, I've learned things in the past year that I'm like, what the hell? Why didn't I learn that when I was like in elementary school, middle school? Like, what? Imagine if we had all of that information, right? Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
That's it. That is why there's so much of a pushback, because if we all have the power, right, and then add to that the numbers game plus the power, defeated. That's it.
I hear you. I hear you. Let me go to Debbie Muhammad, my dear sister, and peace and blessings, Sister Debbie. And thank you for joining us. You said, Sister Debbie, we cannot expect the government that oppresses us to teach how they did it. If we want our children to know, if we want our children to know about our history, then we as parents need to teach our own children.
That's right.
I agree. I hear you. I definitely hear you. Sister Debbie, you also posted something else. You said, why do we need people in the government to speak for us about Black history when we can do it ourselves? Now, the only pushback I would say on that, and I understand the sentiment, the only pushback is that everybody needs to know Black history. It should be mandated because we were so instrumental in building this country that people have amnesia. They lose sight of the fact that, wait, whoa. We talk about the founders of the great documents of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and all of those great we call them the founding documents, the founding fathers. But who did they stand on when they were finding all of those documents, when they were coming up with the language, when they were trying to decide what is going to be the model of governance? Who were they standing on? It was Black people. Who did they decide not to consider in those documents, but had to have in building the physical world and the physical reality? Black people.
And we have to recognize too that it's not just our people who were neglected or misinformed, right? It's also these white students who were, a lot of them today, this younger generation, when you see like who I would call like these babies, 20-something-year-olds, look at, for example, Madison Cawthorn, right? A young man, but with the vision and the objectives that he had, that had to be cultivated in him, right? His great grandparents probably, own some of our family members, so something has to be instilled in you. So, and why you're not learning the true history. They probably genuinely think that we're lazy, all the stereotypes and things about us. So to your point, Farajii, yes, it's very important that everyone needs to know Black history because it is American history, particularly in this country. We were in this country. There wouldn't be a damn country without the blood and
We were the
sweat of our ancestors.
Let's keep it real, Coretta. We were the first industry of this country, right? And I'm not saying this as boasting, but I'm saying this as what it is, right? Like our body, slavery, chattel slavery, was the first major industry of this country. The buying and selling of Black bodies of our people, our ancestors, our great ones, right? We were the industry. Then that continued to happen because of the production, right? So we were like machines, but then there's like the production. What was this country getting out of us? Cotton. That was the number one commodity of America, right? Unlike in any other place in the world at that time. Cotton. We were the industry. We were the driving force for the industry of America, for the building of America. So we can't act as if that doesn't carry any weight. And the other thing about this, that people really don't know. Like, if you're talking to, I don't know, if you're talking to people, whether they're white or Black, and they literally don't know this history, like just think about how liberating it is, as sad and unfortunate and how tragic it is. But look at how liberating it is for us to know some history about ourselves and some history about other people. To walk around to know that you got knowledge in your head. Can you imagine? Now, some of us can, but others of us can't, because some of us, like myself, like if you were a baby growing up in a certain consciousness and with a certain knowledge being bestowed upon you, then you can't imagine being quote unquote unconscious. But if you were once unconscious and became conscious, do you really want to go back to being unconscious? Like, think about that. It's like a dog, as the scriptures say, it's like a dog returning to its vomit. You don't want to go back into that state of mind because you had no power. You had no sense of worth. You didn't feel like a human being. And so there's just so many benefits of us being in this space. And I know that if folks knew the real history, and I got to take a pause, but I know if folks knew the real history of Black people in this country, and they understood it, I know what the fear, like you talked about earlier, man, please.
Especially this younger generation, they ain't having it. Okay.
Please. And guess what would naturally happen? Justice.
And there it is.
Justice. And we could talk about legislation, we could talk about changing people's behavior, but this is the one word that we got to always keep in mind, and that this is the one word that I think some white Americans are afraid of. justice and truth. But justice, because coming with justice is not just an acknowledgement of the wrong. Coming with justice is now you being punished for the wrong that you committed.
That's
And
right.
now,
The fear of having done to them what has been done unto us.
and it don't have to look like that. It don't have to look like that. We don't have to put white people in chattel slavery and be like, that's justice.
No, but
That's
they know
not
their
justice.
needs, so they are fearful. You know.
Of course. Of course. We don't have to take it there though. We don't have to take it there.
No, we
The
don't.
real
And I don't even think that's
the
what
real
our
justice the real justice is breaking you out of the superiority thinking and breaking us out of the inferiority thinking. That's the real justice.
Mhm.
That's the real justice. I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's continue the conversation on the other side. Stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network, joined by my sister Corinna Denise, culture crew member, college advocate, and activist. Let me go to a couple of let's go to a couple of comments from our illustrious culture crew. Cindy D said the attitudes are grown and taught mean from generation to generation. Talking about that level of racism you talked about earlier today, Corinna, talking about how children are born pure. It's the attitude, something that's placed in us. Lana, our sister, you said, I refuse to go back to being a slave. A man that lets his mind be controlled might as well be a slave. I'd rather be a slave for truth. I'd rather be a slave for truth. You know what I'm saying, Corinna? Like,
You know, that made me think about just now. If you saw the reboot of Roots, I think back in 2015, when
yeah.
Kinte is telling his daughter Kizzy, you know, they might put the chains on your body, but never let them put the chains on your mind.
Yeah. That's a great point. That's a great point. That's an excellent point. Sister Debbie, you said before integration, most white folks knew about our history, but after integration, they had to change the curriculum so that there wouldn't be any uprising like the blacks in Haiti. Trust me and believe.
Yeah, they were really scared that there was going to be one back in 2020. They were terrified. Like we seriously gave them some relief, being that, you know, we let up on the gas a little bit, you know, a whole lot on some things collectively, right? That mass protest all around the world, they were terrified. And they know 2043 is coming and we're growing in numbers. They're shrinking in numbers. And that's why there's this concerted effort to maintain white minority rule and to diminish history and to take away history, because again, knowledge is power. And if we are all familiar with our history, do you remember when all of those white kids were like on social media cussing out their parents? Like,
right.
About all the stuff that was going on and battling with them about, you know, what was happening, particularly with the protests and George Floyd. You know, there are a lot of younger kids in this generation who they're knowledgeable, they're well aware and can, you know, easily identify the BS, and they're not having it, and they're rising up in numbers. And again, you know, that's too much for the opposition. Like, wait, hold up, y'all. Despite the fact we're trying to take things away, you're still in power. You still read. You still what? Yeah. So they have to do everything they can to what they think is their benefit to limit us in a sense. So no matter how much happens with a course, we still have to, you know, parents, we have to take the initiative to make sure we're following behind to see what our kids are learning in school. You know, I hope that's the takeaway too that we get from this, that we're paying attention, we're checking homework, we're looking at the curriculum, right? Because some of us are checked out. What are our kids learning, you know? And hopefully this has everyone's attention now to be doing that and making sure that things are in order. You know, it shouldn't have to take something of this magnitude for that to happen. But since it has happened, let's use it to our advantage to be like, okay, you know what? We got a little bit of a reality check. We need to be following up behind every single detail of my child's education.
Absolutely, absolutely. And here's the one thing that I put, just as a result of our conversation today, Corinna. I put this thing down, this idea down. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna post this after the show today. But I just put it down. There's a price to pay to keep people from the truth today.
Mm.
There's a price to pay, man. Like, and I think that, and that's in anything. That's across the board. Whether you talk about in education or politics or whatever. But there's a price to pay. When you want to keep people in darkness, like you're knowingly and intentionally trying to keep people in a state of darkness, then I'm really, really questioning who's your master. Since we talking about being a slave, I'm really questioning who's your master, right? Because if you want to keep people, and and a lot of this stuff that we've been talking about, this is stuff that we can't do nothing about at this point. This is literally history. This is stuff that has already happened, right? So you mean to tell me you're so afraid that you have to keep people in the darkness about something that happened 100 years ago? So that just goes to show you what type of individual you really are, right?
But it's not about time, Farajii. A lot of things that happened 100 years ago, we still see today. It's just manifested as maybe something differently. It presents itself a little bit differently. You know, we're not walking through entrances that necessarily say white or colored, but we still have oppressive systems at play. You know, yes, we've come a long way in a lot of things, but we're still not entirely free.
Absolutely.
Of being back in slavery just without the change this time. So we got to pay attention to that. You know, there's always a reason why there's a takeaway. It's always going to be to the advantage, right? The benefit of the person trying to do the very thing. And that's where we have to smarten up and recognize that. Why are they trying to limit this? Why are they trying to take this away? And instead of us walking away from the battle, we got to be ready to go to war and be like, hell nah. Okay, let me look more into the thing that you're trying to limit. Why is that? Why are you making such an effort? Why are you so dedicated? You know?
Absolutely.
You know what they're also putting out, Farajii, while they're trying to limit our curriculum? They also got that Project 2025 out. That's like about 900 pages or so of just pure wickedness that we need to, you know, that we need to be looking into. And, you know, it's such a vast test, you know, who has time to read all of that? But just the gist of it, you know, they're scheming.
Hey, look, I want to, and look, as we talk about the past history just on this day, I want us to kind of just speak to it because I know we got a couple of moments left. But this latest situation from the UN, right? And I know you and I haven't had a chance to look over it, so you know I'm not expecting you to jump in on it. I just wanted to at least bring it to our watchers as to what's going on when the U.S. has officially decided to, as Bloomberg.com has put it, the U.S. torpedoes Security Council demand for ceasefire in Gaza. According to Bloomberg, the U.S. says that the UAE sponsored resolution was quote unquote divorced from reality, even though the resolution had nearly 100 co-sponsors from around the world. And one of my team just informed me that Russia called the U.S. out, saying, how are you going to explain to your own citizens, hundreds and thousands of whom are coming out in American streets to protest Israel military offensive in Gaza, warning that the U.S. is on the wrong side of history in this situation?
Whoa, wait. God. Russia, who invaded Ukraine last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, see what I'm saying? This is all and folks, of course, we're going to do our due diligence here on the Black Star Network. But we're looking at all of the pieces, and of course, updates are coming in from around the world. But the U.S. has officially blocked a resolution, a UN Security Council. This is coming from the New York Times, that demanded a permanent ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war, siding with Israel's claim that ending the war now before Hamas is destroyed would only ensure the conflict erupts again in the future.
Yeah, definitely need more information to form an educated opinion here. But what I will say is it's interesting how Russia is now, quote unquote, calling out the US. And this is why we have to constantly pay attention, because that's mind boggling to me. You invaded a whole country and over a year ago with Ukraine. And to now say that the US is on the wrong side of history. And for those of us who have a short-term memory will easily walk away with just that, not realizing the predicament, the situation that Russia has caused in Ukraine. So that's why we have to be vigilant. And that is not to disparage what's going on here in the US and their decision making, but I'm simply just highlighting that it's very ironic, warning that the US is on the wrong side of history. And that could be too, again, a way to weaponize and to create another narrative. And they're well aware, right, Farajii, of what's happening here in our country, even with the election interference and all of the things. So it seems like they found an opening to kind of just stir the pot of controversy for us here at home. So I think that's pretty ironic. But yeah, I don't even know what to say. It just will never.
It's crazy.
There's always war in the East, right?
And so let me just share this and break it down for you. According to Mr. Robert A. Wood, who represents the United States Security Council, he said that the resolution that was submitted by the United Arab Emirates, the UAE, isolated the United States, which had made it clear it would use its veto power on the council to once again block any efforts at a permanent ceasefire. Mr. Wood said this would only plant the seeds for the next war. Afterwards, he said the United States has tried to negotiate changes to the resolution, but nearly all of our recommendations were ignored, including adding a condemnation of Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel and an endorsement of Israel's right to self-defense. The Security Council vote was 13 nations in favor of the resolution, with only the United States opposed and Britain abstaining. We just gonna have to deal with that. We're gonna have to really talk this thing through, because I remember you and I know I gotta close out, but I remember you and I, having a conversation when this whole thing kicked off, Corinna. If this is going to be like the straw or the straw that breaks the camel's back, that people were kind of clutching onto this instead of looking at the big picture of President Biden and his achievements and what him and Vice President Kamala Harris are doing for Black folks. But when you have a stance like this, it's you're going to have to explain to the American people.
Well, I'll say this too, Farajii,
to the American people, man.
I remember a couple of weeks ago in class with Dr. Greg Carr, I remember Larry, Daniel Favors mentioning this too, that American foreign policy has always been American foreign policy. And again, because we're not knowledgeable of these things, the current administration in power, who we're most familiar with, takes all the slings and arrows. Now, I'm not trying to alleviate them of any of that accountability, but what I am saying is that we have to understand the inner workings of our government in this country. And the same American foreign policy that's in place now was in place even when 44 was president and those before him, right? For years. So we need to become familiar with how that works and understand that it's not just on an administration. This speaks to bigger issue as to how we conduct our foreign affairs in this country.
That's
And I'll
true. We got to leave it there, but I think you're absolutely right. My sister Corinna Denise, thank you so much as always. You got so much to say. You bring the fire. Cindy D said earlier that you are fire, Corinna, and guess what I am? Ice. I'm
Oh,
cool as
fire and
ice,
ice.
baby. We
All right,
fire and ice.
No, because I bring the heat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right. And I had to calm you down, cool you down, because you be ready to. My sister Corinna Denise, check her out. Follow her on social media platforms at RenRen84. RenRen84. She's always out and about in the world in the streets doing something crazy. No,
Trying
she's
to.
actually doing some. She be doing some great things, y'all. Always taking us on her journey of life. So make sure y'all follow her. But Corinna, thank you so much for your insight and your expertise, and most importantly, thank you for being so good for the culture.
Thank you for having me, Farajii. Peace, crew. Have a great weekend.
Peace. Have a great weekend. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Again, folks, we just wanted to share with you that breaking news coming out of the United Nations. And of course, next week, we're going to do our part to bring some more insight into more context as to what this means as another development in this long lasting story. And during the course of this conflict between Israel and Hamas, how the U.S. has officially vetoed the UAE, the United Arab Emirates resolution for a permanent ceasefire. The United States said, nope, we don't agree with that. And so the conflict will rage on, folks. So we'll certainly talk more about this, God willing, next week. But I thank you for following us, being with us for a phenomenal week. We've had some great conversations. I'm feeling good about the place that we are at in terms of being able to share and explore and just talk about some of these big stories and ideas. So I appreciate each and every one of you, my online culture crew, for being here with me, being so loyal, being so energetic, and most importantly, being so willing to listen and to learn and to share. As I'm listening and learning to share with you, you sharing with me, and that's how we're going to change this culture. So thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered, RMU, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Big shout out to my production team, Maddie, Lise King Keenan, Joel Shannon, and Chris. Thank you so much for making the show happen today. Make sure y'all go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media. And of course, please drop something in the pot for the financial donation so we can continue to give you unadulterated, unfiltered, unapologetic Black content and news and information like never before. So go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com and also follow me, yours truly, the real Farajii, on Instagram, Farajii on Twitter, and Farajii Muhammad on Facebook. So come on and connect with me so we can continue to share and let's continue to build the culture crew. All right, as always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk on Monday for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Have a great weekend. Peace.